The impact it's having is increases the likelihood of ICE attacks, and letting the bad guy know where we're at and when we're coming. It just put our officers at risk. It's only a matter of time before we're ambushed. Just like what happened in El Dorado, Texas, where they stood outside the facility with semi-automatic weapons looking to ambush ICE agents. You don't see these type of apps when FBI operation and DEA operation. It seems like politics is taking over public safety and officer safety. It's just ridiculous, and I hope DOJ comes to a decision to look at these people, and if they can charge them with a crime, I hope they do. Because they're putting ICE officers at great risk.
So, Janine Pirro recently announced that ICE is going to be cracking down on Washington, D.C. Can you give us any more information?
ICE is cracking down across the country, to include Washington, D.C. We got over 1,000 teams out there every day. Looking to take the worst of the worst off the street, and that's what we're going to keep doing all across the country. There's no safe haven for illegal alien criminal safety threat or illegal alien national security threat. There's no safe haven here, nowheres.
Mr. Homan, on deportations, why were you able to achieve so much more for Obama than you have been able to so far for Trump?
Well, you got to look at the Obama numbers, right? They claim had all these removals, but I can tell you I was there. They were counting Border Patrol removals along with ICE removals. Border Patrol was actually apprehending people, giving the ICE to deport them, to move those numbers up. We get honest numbers. Our numbers are ICE number removals. And you look at ICE removals, despite what a lot of the media says, the vast majority of people were removed on criminals and public safety threats. I read every day how ICE isn't arresting criminals. ICE has more non-criminals in detention than criminals. It's a bunch of garbage. I look at the number. First thing I do every morning, I look at the data here every day for the last 24 hours. And here's what the data told me this morning. 70% of everybody arrested is a criminal. Hard stop, 70%. Who's the other 30% we're arresting? National security threats. For instance, over 300 Iranian nationals. We arrest national security threats by the thousands since President Trump's been in Oval Office. Who else is that 30%? People with final orders of deportation. People who had due process at great taxpayer expense were ordered removed by an immigration judge. Our job is to remove them. There's also gang members. Look, and as far as the small fraction, I made it clear from day one. Sanctuary cities don't let us arrest a bad guy in the jail and force us in the community to find the bad guy. When we find him, many times it's with others. They're coming too, because they're in the country illegally, and we're not going to instruct ICE to not arrest these people. Because the last administration said, ICE, you can't arrest an illegal alien unless he's convicted of a serious crime. What message does that send to the whole world? Go ahead and enter our country illegally. It's a crime, but don't worry about it. Just don't commit another crime, and no one's looking for you. If that's the message we send to the whole world, you're never going to fix this problem permanently.
Does Homan suggest that the Justice Department filed against Judge Boasberg over stopping deportation flights?
I think a lot of these judges are radical judges who are trying to stop this administration from doing their job. I think the president has the power of executive order to make this country safe again and secure our borders. You can't have strong national security if you don't have border security. And you can't have border security without strong interior enforcement. Look, Border Patrol, I love the Border Patrol. I started in Border Patrol. They've done a great job. We got the most secure border in the history of this nation. But a lot of that has to do with interior enforcement, because we're showing the whole world there's consequences. We have 1,000 teams out every day arresting illegal alien public safety threats. That sends a strong message, too, not to come and cross that border. Don't put yourself at risk and cross that border, because most 90% of those claiming asylum get ordered removed. We're going to remove them. Because if we don't do that, if we don't execute those orders issued by judges, then what the hell are we doing? Just shut down immigration court. Judge's order doesn't mean anything. Well, why? We're wasting our time. Take the Border Patrol off the border. There's no consequence. No, we're going to enforce the law. President Trump, what he's doing different than President Biden, we're enforcing laws on the books enacted by Congress, what ICE is funded to do, and we're going to continue doing that. And look at the success. The most secure border in the history of this nation today. This would be the first administration in history of this country that's going to have total operational control of the southern border for the first time ever.
Mr. Homan, as a Roman Catholic,
the tariff deadline coming up, and with Mexico in particular, President Trump has spoken about the need for tariffs to stop the flow of fentanyl coming over the border. Can you discuss that, how that effort is going?
Tariffs are out of my lane. That's a question for other people. That's out of my lane. I'm a border guy. And well, look, fentanyl seizures down over half. Why? Because we got a secure border. When you have a secure border, every Border Patrol agent is on the line doing their job. They're not changing diapers, making baby formula, making hospital runs, making airport runs. Everybody's on the line and vigilant And the cartels are hurting. Look, under Biden, the cartels made more money than they ever made. Smuggling aliens, sex trafficking women and children, smuggling dope across the border. Now we have a secure border, cartels are going bankrupt. And President Trump, through all his efforts and his leadership, we're going to wipe the cartels off the face of the earth, which makes not only this country safer, but Mexico safer.
Mr. Homan, as a Roman Catholic, should their detainees be allowed to celebrate Mass? The Archbishop of Miami has said that he's not been able to access the detainees in the Alligator Alcatraz to give them the Eucharist.
I'm not aware of that. Where would that come from?
It came from the National Catholic Reporter 3 days ago.
I'll have to look into it. I'm not aware of that.
Mr. Homan, there's polling that suggests that there are people in the public that think that you've gone too far with immigration.
Yeah, but why is that? Because I just talked about it because of false media. I read a story the other day. Less than 1% of ICE deportations are murderers. Really? That's a level set now? Being in the country legally isn't enough? There's nothing in the Immigration Nationality Act that says you got to commit yet another crime to be deportable. But the false media stories, like I just said, most people in ICE detention aren't criminals. Wrong. A majority is criminal. I see the numbers every day. But now the media is saying, well, they're not criminal enough. They just got a DUI. 10,000 people a year die from DUI. That's a public safety threat, in my opinion. That's a cop from New York. I've seen the tragedies of DUI. So now the media is saying, well, they're not criminal enough. Look, the bottom line is, I looked at the numbers. 70% of everybody we arrested have a criminal history. And I told you, the other 30% are national security threats. Most national security threats don't have a criminal history. They're laying low to waiting for them to do their dirty deed. Gang members, a lot of gang members don't have criminal histories. And the others, the non-criminals, everybody arrested in the country illegally. That's not okay. It's not okay to be in this country illegally. It's not okay to enter this country illegally. It's a crime. And again, if that's the message we send, and I've done this for 40 years, if the message we send, if you're just in the country illegally, don't worry about it. We're not looking for you. You think you're ever going to solve the problem? When people around this world want to come to the greatest nation on earth, and if they realize I'll cross the border illegally, it's a crime. But as long as I don't commit another crime, no one's looking for me. We can't do that. And while we're arguing about this, there are millions of people standing in line, taking their tests, doing a background investigation, paying their fees, sitting in the back seat, while millions of people in the Biden administration cheated the system. All these millions of asylum seekers, what you need to know, based on immigration court data, nearly 9 out of 10 of those so-called asylum seekers end up with an order of removal. They're asylum seekers, they're also asylum cheaters, because there are thousands of people in this world that really do need our protection, because they really are true asylum seekers, because they're escaping fear and persecution from their home government because of race, religion, political affiliation. They're sitting in the back seat while millions of asylum cheaters cross the border in Joe Biden. This president different. Again, what have we done? Most secure border in the history of this nation. ICE has arrested more criminal threats and national security threats in this time frame, 3 times as many as Joe Biden did. This administration is look, every day I wake up, it's amazing the numbers we have. What a lot of this polling that's going is because of false media. We're deporting U.S. citizens. Name one U.S. citizen we deported. We don't deport U.S. citizens. They're talking about children of people we deport. If you're in this country illegally, and you know you're in this country illegally, you have an order of removal, but rather than leaving, you become a fugitive and choose to have a U.S. citizen child? That doesn't make you immune from our laws. That was a decision on your part. So when we remove that person, it's parenting one-on-one. What do you want to do? You want to take the child with you? You want to leave him here with another relative or another spouse? They put themselves in the position, not us. So it's the false media that's pushing the polling.
Is there a political question to that about for the midterms? And is there a concern that that could hurt the administration before next year?
You know, I'm not a politician, and I'm a border guy, and we're enforcing the laws. We're not making this up. ICE is enforcing laws enacted by Congress. I see all these people protesting ICE. Why aren't they protesting the Hill? If they don't like what ICE doing, protest the people who wrote the bill. I see members of Congress comparing us to racists and members of terrorist organizations. If we're terrorists for enforcing immigration law, what's that make them? They wrote the law. We're enforcing laws enacted by Congress, and we're going to do it with no apologies. We're going to do exactly what the President Trump has promised American people to do. The reason why President Trump was elected president, because people believed in a secure border, and people believe that we should remove public safety threats and national security threats from this country. And that's what we do every single day.
Mr. Homan, how comfortable are you with the efforts to deport our Afghan war allies, like the interpreters who helped our guys over there?
Look, every one of them will be vetted properly, which weren't vetted during the Biden administration. Decision be made by case basis. Well, let's remember, even the Department of Defense, OIG, came back and said they weren't vetted properly. Look at the thousands of criminal aliens we're arresting right now That last administration releasing the country saying they're properly vetted. They lied to the American people. We don't have access to most countries' criminal data. Most countries don't have an NCIC like we do. When they said they were vetted, they were run through NCIC and Triple I's, state systems here. So unless they had a criminal history here, they say, okay, good to go. We've arrested thousands of criminals that have criminal histories in their home country, wanted for murder in the home country. We're on the terrorist watch list and still released in this country. President Trump's doing the right thing for the American people every day. This country is safer every day because the men and women of ICE are doing the work they took an oath to enforce. I mean, no one can argue that sanctuary cities' crime rates are dropping because we're taking public safety threats off the street.